Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. Today I have with me Stefano Brioschi, IK2QEI. And once again, this is probably going to be one of those conversations that we can't wrap up in 40 minutes, so I suspect we'll have Stefano back in the future. Stefano's got a very long history in ham radio, very successful contester, and I'm really anxious to hear some of that today. We'll culminate the story today with CN3A, the superstation that he and his team built in Morocco, which I'm also very interested in. Stefano, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a pleasure, and hello to everyone.
Well, I feel very privileged to have you here. I understand that you're a five-time WRTC competitor. I think you're a referee at the maybe one of the last WRTCs, but we can get into that later on. I want to start from the beginning. When did you get your ham radio license, and what motivated you to do that, Stefano?
Yeah, I was very young, and there was a customer of my father that was coming here with a CB radio, and I was 14 years old at the time. And so when I passed the examination for the last class before the, the university, I asked my father to if I can get in some way to CB, and there was the local club of ARI, Amateur Radio Italy, here in Lissone, where I live, is close to the circuit of Formula One Monza, and so I start at 16 years old to practice CW, and after I move very quickly to examination. In Italy, you have to have 18 years for get your call sign. So I get the permission of transmission at 17, and I get my call at 18. My mother signed for me, and I was receiving in December 1991 IK2QEI, and so I start with this. And from this, I was very lucky because I3MAU was doing multi-multi in this year, and with the Luca IK2NCJ that now it's one of the founder of Delta for Charlie, and we was at the same school in Milano, and Luca told me, why you don't come with us for IQ3A, or no, IZ3A in the Zulu 3 Alpha, multi, and so I start with this adventure, and I cannot resist. I meet there all the big contestants in Italy, I4 UFH, I6 NOA, IV3 TAN, I2 VXJ, Luca IK2NCJ, IV3 PRK, the 160-meter top guys that we have here in Italy, and so it was everything in a pack, and so they start to ask me if I can join several teams, and the bite started there, and was amazing, and I really love a lot amateur radio.
So, Stefano, I've got to stop you and make you go back a couple of sentences. I think, and I hear this a lot, ham radio operators at your level, I don't think you realize how successful and fortunate you were back in your early days. From what I heard you just say, you were invited to a multi contest station when you were, in your late teens, early 20s? Is that right?
18.
So you're 18, and what was that contest? Was that the CQWW?
Yes, absolutely. CQ Worldwide.
So at 18, you're invited to a multi at a pretty significant multi station. What was that experience like for you? Was it intimidating at all?
It was unbelievable. I cannot imagine. We was almost 40 operators, and Renzo, I3 Mike Alpha Utah, as he said, he is now Silenki, unfortunately. He was building the multi station inside of this house. So he was removing from all the room of the family, the bedroom and everything. He keeps only his bed for his wife, and he removed all the bed of his daughters and son, and he put all the station all together. We had for the first time the CT, the K1 Eco Alpha version 6, something like that, and but we was not very confident on the LAN, and so we had also the log manually with the paper, and was amazing. Antenna system was very impressive at Renzo. We had a 7/7/7 on 10, 3-element delta loop on 40, and he was very famous in this year. He was one of the best in Europe. And we closed in the second place in Europe due to Zulu Alpha 5 Echo was coming in this period. Albania was very, very rare country, no? And there was the X expedition there during the CQ Worldwide. So we have been beaten by them for a very strict measure, but was impressive. And after that, um, I was a spare operator now because I was very young. So I've been on 20 meters. It was very noisy all during the day, and I was with I4UFH, and I've been on 40 in the day. And after I start to frequent Renzo, and he put me. We did several times multi in the ARRL with 5-6 operator, only friends, no, like familiar, and I stay all the night long on 20, and so I start to work US for hours and hours, and I was very passionate, and this was like put fuel over the fire, no? So, and there was a period that I come every week when I can to Renzo house to help him, and because everything was homemade, no? Was not like in these days that you have all antennas or amplifier or at Renzo, with the help of i3JSS, they build all the station, filter, amplifier. Only the radio was bought, but was incredible experience.
So it's not surprising to me that you got heavily into contesting, getting started at such a young age and having that great experience. And I think that you've operated in, over 400 contests over your 3 decades, maybe even more than that. But tell me, early on, were you also operating from a home station, or were all your contests from like a guest op at a multi-station that invited you?
No, I have a small station here at home with a 20-meter towers, but I am quite close to the city of Milano, so also in the past was good for contesting, was good for the axing, but not for contesting. So for contesting, I start to be a guest operator, but fixed at India Radio 4 Tango. That was the Mushroom station in Modena. We called it Mushroom because was the station was on top of a water tower up about 75 meters, so more than 200 feet. And we was sitting there with the antenna just on top of our roof, and we was in the elevator cabin. And we stayed there in the winter was freezing, and in the summer was very, very hot. But this position was incredible because it was close to Bologna, so in not a hilltop location, but due to that antenna are at least 70 meters over the ground, we have a very low angles. And we had for 160 a 2-element wire Yagi up about 55 meters over the ground. And we was the unique station in the world to have antenna for 160 under the shack, because we was on top of the tower. And this was amazing, India Radio 4 Tango. And from there I start to compete. There was with I4UFH, I4GMY, IK4 India Echo. This was the 3 main operators, and I was coming with the IK2SGC Matteo, my very good friend that we built together CN3A later. And when I was contesting there was almost SSB operators. Later also IK4UPB comes with us. And so I have the possibility to use the station on CW by myself. And I start to contest a lot also by single operator on CW. So I won several categories on 40, 20, 15, and also some single opal band. The station was built in a very simple way to have one radio for one antennas and another antennas for multiplier. This was the old years when you was doing with the two radios multi-operator, no? After comes multi-two, but at this in these years the multi-single was the king class. So we was competing with the Tango Mike 1 Charlie that later become Tango Mike 6 and in Bretagne, but they have a lot of advantages, but we was able to keep them sometimes behind due to our crazy location because on 80 meter we was able to work Zulu Lima very easily because antenna was very high, and 10, 15 and 20 on 10 we had a 5 element directly on the balcony, so it was looking outside of the cement of the infrastructure, so it was really 70 meter in the middle of nowhere, and ARRL 10 meter was amazing. We was able to hear our voice make the turn of the word several times in the backscatter, and so I've been there for a quite long period, and after they had some problem with the location, and so we have to quit, but we set a lot of record like India Radio for Tango, and was impressive.
So I mentioned earlier that I believe you've competed in 5 WRTCs, and correct me if I'm wrong with that, but did you qualify for those WRTCs from India Radio 4 Tango?
Yes, yes. I at the beginning, to be honest, in the WRTC there was a qualification made inside of the club. So in this year I was belonging to Marconi Contest Club, that, as you can understand from the name, is an Italian contest club that later was replaced by Italian Contest Club that we have in now, no? And in my first WRTC was in Slovenia, in Bled, and was in the year 2000, and I was with I2VXJ. I competing, I remember, with such a monster of M5TJ, K1TO, and PY5CC, and all the big guys was there, no? And was very, very funny. We closed out a 20 position, and I remember we had at this time the qualification was made inside of our country, and so you have to present your contest, and I travel also a little for being qualified in the best way because, for example, I've been at Sierra Vitorate Charlie Sugar Station for the European HF contest that due to Slovenian guys was organizing the WRTC. They decided to give some extra point for this local contest run by them. And so I was Japan 48 Quebec Eco India from the island of Zakynthos during this contest, and was fantastic because work Europe at the bottom of Europe, it's like to be in the Caribbean, work US, no? So if you have a little bit of opening on 10, 15, and 20, you can fly over the pileup and beat everyone else because you have a very good skip. And so it was incredible because from Spiros QTH, I won the contest for the qualification of the WRTC, and after I went, there was Slovenia, Finland. I've been later to Brazil. Brazil was the best one. I was with IK2JUB, Stefano, that is still active now. He's one of the best Italian CW operator that we have. He's been a lot of time also at Delta for Charlie. And with Stefano, we did an impressive job in the way also to preparing, because in the past WRTC was changing almost rules every 4 years. Every edition, you have to rearrange completely the setup and the way to think the contest. No? Now WRTC is a two-man competition with almost every operator have his own radio, and he can make their own QSO. You know everything about WRTC. And in the past, we started with one radio. The second radio was only for listen. After and you cannot transmit. After in Brazil, OMS PY5 Charlie Charlie was able to be sponsorized by ACOM also for a small amplifier because it was in the years where condition was not so good, and he was thinking that it was very struggling from South America, but was not, because also with the 400 watt we work European on 80 meter, and okay, our QTH was good because at the beginning till WRTC Moscow there was not the concept to host the team in a tent or in a similar infrastructure. So we had the same antennas. For example, in Brazil, we have a log periodic 10 to 20 from ACOM, and we had the two element made in Brazil for 40 with the 12-meter tower, and we did very good. And I was beat by V3 Delta Zulu, that and it comes for very little. And after we went with Luca, I came to NCJ in Russia, and we was the first Italian team qualified, and also in the competition we was the first Italian team. After we went to Boston, and after I work a lot for deploy CN3A, that with these kind of rules that they have in the WRTC, that you have to make a part of contest from your house, the mid. So for example, if the qualification are 16 contests, you have to do 8 contests from your own QTH. And so I was working a lot in the development of CN3A. And so I said, okay, for WRTC now it's done. And after Boston, I start because it was 4 years after the starting of CN3A, so I have to be concentrated there, and I had not the possibility to have a local station anymore and compete. If you want to be serious from one place, it's different. It's difficult to run 2 high-level contest station, and and I can be qualified as a North Africa or CN only if I have a passport from there, no? So I decided to stop a little the WRTC and be concentrated on CN3A. And after last year, they called me for be a referee at WRTC in Italy, and I had the surprise to be selected for Yuri and Yari, and it was amazing, no? They won the contest. I was with there. I try to feel them. I try to be the referee that maybe I want to have for me, no? So I try. There was a multiple success because I was Italian. The WRTC was in Italy, so I can accommodate in my own language very easy things for them. And they said, I4VAQ Claudio say, hey, sorry Stefano, at your site we don't have site manager because he's managing 2 different sites. Do you mind? I say, no, I will do it easy. I can do the coffee, I can speak for the dinner, for the lunch, no worries, I can do it. And so I start to be in the same chair with them, and I enjoy because they are very, very good. And to be honest, I don't know if you ever seen a short video that I did it after the close of the contest. I asked to Yuri and to Yari what they think about the results, no? And Yuri was totally tired, destroyed, no? And he told me, why you don't tell us that we we are first, no? I cannot do it. That's the rule. But something, no, no, I cannot believe it. I cannot. And I was driving because I was driving the guys back to the hotel, and for 2 hours he was asking me, "Are you sure?" Yes, I am sure. Incredible. I cannot believe it. Incredible. And so this was very amazing. I was very lucky because I learned a lot. And to be honest, it's difficult to stay 24 hours awake if you are not in the front of the radio, if you cannot tune nothing. But with these guys, it was fantastic. And also, there was a team from Ukraine. So I was very, very, very happy. Very happy.
Well, I did have the opportunity to interview Yuri, Victor Echo 3, Delta Zulu, and we talked about this. And he talked about how great a referee you were and that it was great having you in the room. But it always kind of amazed me that an operator at your level could be sitting there for 24 hours and not be itchy to get behind the radio itself. How did you cope with that?
Was the most difficult things, but I would love the guys to win. That I said I will try to be outside, but they had a lot of noise with the lighting system because unfortunately here in Italy we have a lot of lighting system that is making a lot of noise. So I try to figure it out with the owner of the house, and so this was my way to help them, no, because but they was amazing, no, and Yari UW7LL was with the K3 on top of the table 2 hours. No, 2 hours not, but 4 hours or before the contest, and
I remember
uh,
this. Yes.
he was trying to repair, no? And Yuri say, "Oh, I can imagine what you think about us, no?" And I say, "No, Yuri, come on, I don't think nothing, no." But I said, maybe it's better to change it. Why we are losing time for that, no? But after they found a way, and it was very concentrated. Yuri is unbelievable. He can hear at the first time everything. So this is one of the secrets now revelated of Yuri, because he is able to work. He knows very well all the call sign. So he knows the people. He knows the way to do it, and they really deserve the first play. Also, Yari is a young guys, but he have a lot of fuel, and so he was able to be always present, close to Yuri in the way to become the real second runner, because sometimes with 100 watt it's not easy to run two bands over 24 hours, no? And we was lucky because the place was good, the condition was good. We heard a lot of team with noise, a lot of team having troubles. We don't have to move antenna to do nothing special, so we can be concentrated on the game. And to be honest, also was hard sometimes to don't say nothing, because maybe you want to say, hey, let's move on 20, maybe US now, no? Hey, because the strategy during IRU here in Europe, you can work a lot of QSO, but you can do not so many points, because you can be in the with a lot of people call you, but not the distance one. So you have to make a US. From Italy, you can win the contest only if you are doing US. It's like to be, when I be in Boston, I was impressed, and I understand. Um, okay, there are a bunch of very incredible operators, no, like Randy or K1ER, K1DG. They are very, very good. But the location remember me a lot CN3A, because you are almost on the DX part, no? And when you are in Boston, if you turn the antenna to Europe, you can listen Europe maybe for 20, 22 hours. So that's amazing. I was before the WRTC. I lived for a week at Mark House at K1RX. So it helped me a lot about propagation, and I learned that it's a very magic place, the area of Boston, and so no, was amazing. The WRTC, everything is an amazing event, no? It's magic because, and the good things is that these people are playing the game in a very serious way, in another level, and results like N6MJ or KLNNA, they are doing incredible things because the good things is that I think they don't know how they do it. They are there to do it. Finish. When it's like to drive a car, no? You when you know how to drive, you drive, and that's it. And if you are Schumacher, everyone see that you are Schumacher. Finish.
Stefano, I like the referee story because it tells me that you're willing to support your fellow ham radio operators when you can't be behind the radio itself. And that leads me to the work you've done with the CQ Worldwide Committee. I know you've been part of that committee. I think you still stay in touch with K1AR and help out. Tell me about that involvement and how that came to be and what your role was with the CQ Worldwide Committee.
Yes, it was quite simple. I have a very good relation with Tine, Sugar 50 Alpha, uh, because I become he become one of my Elmer also if it's so far because when you try to understand how some big station can do some big number, and there was in the years where I started to do contest, Sugar 50 Alpha, he was winning everything. He was doing a single Apple band, he was winning a single Apple band. He was doing a single 40, and so I've been also at one time at the house of Tine, and we have very good relation. And after the I2UIY passed away, um, they asked me during there was the WRTC in Russia. Tine called me and said, K3EST need to talk with you. I said, okay. And so I come to a table where there was PY5 Echo Golf, all the guys there. And he told me, what do you think to join us for as an Italian ambassador for the CQ Worldwide? Because we need to have some eyes there. And so I started to be in the committee, and I learned a lot of things. These guys are amazing. They did a lot of work, and Randy is behind of them. They power a lot, and so I tried. I am not. I am involved in the way to take care about Italy, Europe, and what we are hearing here. Now you know. We are trying to have the top technology during this contest also for understand, and I think the most important things is that all the people that are sitting in this committee are people with a long experience, people that knows exactly what can be in the contest, and so sometimes we are able really to dig out things that maybe are made in a very fantasy way. Okay, okay. So I was proud to be there, and I try to drive the contest community, not only being sit in this position, but also to sharing with the Italian guys what is the real scope, no, of also of the WWROF, and what is behind the contest, no. So it's not only a matter to receive the log, but you have also to have people involved, to ask them to send the log, to have the right people that are making the good things for be really in all these tricky situations that sometimes can happen, no? Because when I started, there was internet just at the beginning. Now we have internet, SDR, or we have a remote coming very strong. So we was facing a lot of different things, no? I think that the contest world is real connected to technology, and so is growing and evolving year after year, and you cannot stop the evolution, you cannot stop the technology. So if we don't decide sometimes to make some different step, um, the people will not follow you, no? So um, we are from one part. I am very proud to be there because these people made a lot of things and with a lot of ideas, and we discuss things that maybe after a few months never become nothing, but there was always a very nice discussion, no?
The more of these conversations I have, I've been surprised at how much work goes on behind the scenes with these contests. If you're lucky enough to operate a contest and get through 36 hours, or the few people that maybe do 48 hours, you think it's over and you send your login. But then after talking to people like Randy K5ZD and Doug Grant K1DG, you find out the hours, the hundreds of hours that go into preparing for a contest and then doing the follow-up work and making sure that it all works properly. And as you said, that it evolves properly so that it meets the needs of the ham radio community. Which also leads me to one of the other things I learned about you. I think that you helped arrange the Contest University in Italy with the help of Tim Duffy, K3LR. Tell me about that. Why did you decide to do that, and how did that go over?
Yeah, when we had the opportunity to be in touch with Hanam Fair here in Italy, like the biggest one in Europe is Friedrichshafen, no? We have another one in Italy, Montichiari, that is quite close to my house, and I have the opportunity to be in touch with the organization. So we was thinking to develop something in the way to push and to ask people to come all together, because Italy, it's a country that from a geographical part, it's narrow but very long. It's 1,000 kilometer long. And so to have a point where all together we can come, it is not easy. So we found this exhibition in the middle of northern Italy that really can collect from the prefix point of view, Italy 1, Italy 2, Italy 3, Italy Victor 3, and Italy 4, and maybe Italy 5. So we are almost like the center, higher part of Italy. So the idea was to have a contest university in Italy. And I'm talking about year 2000, something like that. So I spoke with K3LR, and they say, hey Tim, what do you think if I will run? And Mark and Zero DXR was just having the first edition of Contest University in UK. So I bring there to London for the second edition. I spoke with Mark, and I say, hey Mark, what do you think? But this was run by RSGB. So it was Mark running, but it was belonging to RSGB organization. So it was a very huge organization. So I decided to ask to Romeo, AK2 Echo Alpha Delta, that was one of the boss of this exhibition, to give me the possibility to have some sponsor. And so we start to do it. And till now, it was around 2000, 2002, 2005, something like that. We started and we did more than 15 contest university. Sometimes we did two, one in September and one in March. And we had a lot of important contesters coming, K1AR, K1DG, K1ZM. We had K3LR a couple of times, but also Randy, I think, a couple of times. And we try to have a very important person every edition. We have for Oscar 3 Alpha, Radio Alpha 6, Lima Bravo Sierra. Uh, we have OH2UA that was driving Charlie Radio 2 X-Ray. We had Osacity 1BOH. So more than 30 people coming. And the last, we was supposed to host also in 6MJ and KL9A, but the COVID was coming, and we have to stop this edition. So maybe I hope in the future to invite them again. And we have very often Echo 70X, 9 Alpha 1 Papa, 9 Alpha 1 Alpha guys. So, and the idea was really to have someone that can teach the people to have something to bring at home. No, as you said, looks like very easy to sit in the radio for 24 hours or 36 hours in a modest way, and when you close, you have done, but not, because you have to know how to do your cable, how to build antennas, or also if you heard the CN3A loud and you think that we are relaxing, or it's not. So we are, and so we start with this. This become at the beginning like a school, after become a social event. So now Contest University, after the COVID, we are running with almost 150, 200 people. Before the COVID, we was sometimes well over 200. And so in Italy, having 250 contesters, it's a big event, because at the beginning we was giving to them a book with all the presentation printed, and the access have been for almost all the Contest University for free. So we was asking nothing, and at the least we had asked a contribution of 5 to 10 euros, something like that, in these last years. But our idea is not to do this for make money or whatever. The idea is really to push a contest community and say that we are all together, and try to build, like in the other country, contest club. For example, in Germany they have Bavarian Contest Club, very strong, Rainur Contest Club, very strong. And so in the past I had invited also DJ6QT, DJ2YA, OM4UN was coming for a couple of time, and John was amazing, because I remember when he told me, you know that I built the house, the cable of my house with a higher diameter that I need to have it, because he was engineer for telecommunication, and he had the possibility in the 60s to influence the builder of the coax. So they built the coax for them. So the coax for OM4UN was built for OM4UN. So you can imagine, if you are doing a lunch with this kind of guys, no, you think, okay, what I can do here, no? So
So Stefano, I'm looking at the clock and I'm mindful that we're running short on time. And we did agree ahead of time that you will come back with the CN3A team to talk about that. But I do want to touch upon that. If we can just end on some information about CN3A in Morocco. You touched upon it earlier, but go back to the genesis of that station and what you've built there, both the first version, but then what you call the 2.0 version. What do you have there in Morocco?
yes, I started in Morocco. I was working together with AK2SGC in Milano, and we was working both for Tricom. I think you remember the US company that was doing networking devices. Later, we was acquired by HP, Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And so we was working together, me and Matteo, and was thinking, we was working, but thinking all the day long to contest, no? And so Matteo told me, my family parents have to move the house, so I have to remove my old station in Milano. This was 2006 autumn, And there was a very good friend of us in Italy that comes from Morocco, because we have a lot of guys from CN here in Italy. And this was Ahmed. Now Ahmed is a Charlie November 8 Whiskey Kilo. So Ahmed told us, why you don't move these two towers in Morocco? I have a beautiful house close to the sea. And we said, this is crazy, no? And so we said, yeah, why not? What we can do? So we bring down the tower, we bring down the TH7 and a couple of tower. I build some other monoband antenna, and we decide in September to ship, maybe or August 2006. We ship there the first uh, truck of goods, and we decide to try to be active for the Secure Y 2006 from CN3A, no? And we was lucky. We went there in July. We had a good meeting with Aram. Aram was knowing Ahmed before because he have done a lot of things, and so Ahmed was our host in Morocco, CN8 Whiskey Kilo, and we put two towers, but normal towers, 20-meter higher. And in the properties, there was also a water tower for 12 meters high. And so we decided to put a TH7 on the water tower, and to put three element on 20 on one 20-meter tower. No, it was 12-meter tower at this time. One 4-element 410-meter, one 2-element on 40, and one 3-element on 15 on a separate tower. So we had a two tower and a water tower. And with a bunch of 5-6 operator, we bring 11 bag. I remember that we went to the airport with 1,000 kilos of materials, because we send with the truck all the antennas and the tower. And we say, maybe we can carry the devices no? But with us in the luggage. No? So we when arrived, there was Alitalia, and the lady wanted to die, because when she understand that we have 1,100 kilos of luggage, he said, are you sure? Yes, we are sure. We have to do the car. I was also in the luggage, the 2-element on 40. And so we was a little bit, we can say young, but also very motivated. So we bring everything there, and we put the station into the house of Ahmed, in the between the kitchen and the bedroom. So we put two station for do a multi-single, and we did the second word behind the Fox Yankee 5 Kilo Echo.
So Stefano, I'm going to stop you just for a second. You said you were young. I'm trying to do the math in my head. You were in maybe your early 30s when you did this?
No, 23. No, maybe, no, sorry. 73, 20, sorry, it was 33. 33.
33. Okay.
Yeah.
My math was pretty good. Okay, so 33. Still pretty young though, and you're still you still have that energy to be able to pull this off. Keep going.
Yes. So we bring much more energy during the 2007, and we understand that we can build a permanent station there. So Ahmed was happy. He was helping us a lot. Because, to be honest, without an host from Morocco, you cannot think to do this kind of adventure. So we become part of the Moroccan community, we can say. I've been there more than 70 times from this. And we start to build the station. Every year we had the schedule to put one more tower, no? So if we are missing one tower for 1 year, it's because we are not doing our work. So we put another tower and another tower, and we had a very, the year later we put Foursquare for 80 meter, and we decided to go in this way because low bands from Morocco are very important. We put 5-element on 20, and we won over Fox Yankee 5 Kilo Echo. So we started to won the multi-single world for 3 times, and later we put much more effort. We put a 36-meter tower with a 3-element for 40, from OptiBeam. We bought an OptiBeam 17.4, and this was another game changer in the 2010. We did more than 10,000 QSO in a multi-single on SSB, and I did the same year the world record on 40 meter CW. That is still there because when you move from in this location from 20 meter tower to 40 meter tower, you feel in another world. And we are close to the ocean. We have ocean up about 1.5 kilometer. So with a very huge cliff, because we are on top of 120 meter cliff. So if you take the car in a very rapid way, you pass the cliff and you are in the beach. And this city is Safi. It's the most eastern point of Morocco. So this was very important during the Second World War. The US Army comes from there to Spain because this port is one of the biggest port in Africa. It's the first one that you meet when you come over from the North America or from the Atlantic Ocean. So the weather are very, very bad. You feel to be like in the island because you are very close to the ocean. But we are lucky because we don't have a lot of corrosion because it's raining quite often. And so it's very nice. We start to build the station and we arrive to have 6 towers. One for 10, one for 15, one for 20, one for 40. But we decided to move in a little bit direction. We put 2 towers for 40 and to have 2 different directions. So in the 2016 was almost the last part of, we can say, the legacy Charlie Nancy 3 Alpha. And we had a very good competition with the Charlie Nancy 2 radio. A lot of time, and we decided to have a different antenna using a splitter and using tri-bender, using quadri-bender and using quadriplexer. So we have the possibility to change antenna and put antenna in the radio like if you are using a monoband. And so this was one of the secrets that with a quite light setup, we had such a good result. But also Morocco is a magic place because Zone 33, it's 3 hours fly from Italy, no? 2.5. But condition, talking about radio, it's another thing.
Stefano, I think that you've whetted our appetite for the next conversation for sure. So I'm going to stop you there. I want to hear more, but promise to bring your team back and we'll have a conversation only about CN3A. I think a lot of us have CN3 in our log. We know the success there, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that would be very interested to know more about that experience. I really appreciate you joining me today, Stefano.
Yeah, sure. And also, the last things that I want to highlight is that I was lucky that during the COVID period, I was able to help a team here in Italy, India to Sierra. And so we rebuild a complete station. And now I am close to another contest station that is India to Sierra at only 100 kilometers. So when I am not in Morocco, I am contesting from home really. And this is a very nice part of the game because during the COVID we feel all alone, but we was able to keep our hobby at a maximum level. This is amazing. So thank you very much, Kevin, and I will tell you more and we show you also some picture about CN3A version 1 and version 2.
But clearly you're a very busy man, so I appreciate you taking time today to spend this hour with me. I've been talking to Stefano Brioschi, IK2QEI. Thank you.
Ciao, thank you, bye-bye.